At Christmas dinner, everything looked like a painting. The fireplace crackled with soft orange light, the table was dressed with glittering silverware, and my uncle was already 3 glasses into the wine. My mom passed the mashed potatoes like we were in a Norman Rockwell postcard. And then Grandma laughed. "Good thing your parents pay off your student loans," she said, dabbing her mouth with a napkin, her voice dripping with pride. I blinked. "What loans?" Forks paused midair. The room dropped a full 10 degrees. I smiled awkwardly. "I dropped out a year ago. I work at the diner during the day and stock shelves at night." "What loans are we talking about?" That's when Mom's wine glass slipped from her hand. The splash was fast, red on the white tablecloth like fresh blood. Dad flinched. "It's not what you think," he said too quickly. I turned to him. "Then what is it?" Grandma set down her fork and stood up. Slowly, as if the weight of the years had caught up to her all at once. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the back of her chair. Everyone was frozen, staring at her like she'd forgotten her own name. "It's time you knew," she said, voice low but clear. "This family's been lying to you for too long. They never planned to tell you. But I'm old, and I've buried enough secrets in this house." My heartbeat wasn't beating. It was hammering. Grandma looked directly at me. "You think you dropped out? Honey, you never even applied." "They did. They used your name. They used your future." I felt my throat close. "What are you talking about?" "They took out loans in your name. Paid them off with your inheritance. Your birth mother left it for you." There was a sound in my ears, like a scream underwater. Dad was pale. Mom started shaking her head, mouthing, "No," like a prayer. My cousin tried to crack a joke, but it died halfway through. The table, the carefully carved ham, the twinkling lights, the fake smiles, it all dissolved into static. "I begged them not to," Grandma continued. "But your mother said it was the only way to keep you. Your father," she looked at him with eyes like steel, "he said you'd never know. They thought you'd just be grateful." Silence. Not a single breath in the room. My chair scraped back before I realized I was standing. My hands were trembling. "My birth mother?" Mom finally found her voice. "It's not how it sounds." I backed away. "Then tell me how it sounds." No one did. The cold hit me the second I stepped outside. I didn't even grab a coat. I just kept walking, past the neighbor's glowing reindeer, across the frost-covered lawn, down the street without a destination. My breath came in clouds, but my mind was too hot, racing through everything I thought I knew. The word inheritance echoed over and over, but I shoved it aside. There was something worse gnawing at the edges, something deeper. At home, I didn't bother turning on the lights. I dropped my keys on the table and opened my laptop. I started with my university email. Deleted. Archived. I pulled it all up. Every thread, every message from admissions, financial aid, professors, anything. It took me an hour to realize what was missing. There were no confirmation emails from loan servicers, no notifications about balances, no warnings, no welcome packets from lenders. I logged into what was supposed to be my student loan account. It didn't exist. Not under my name, not under my social. Nothing. Next was the bank. I pulled statements from the last 3 years and scanned every single transaction. No large deposits matching loan disbursements. No payments labeled tuition. It didn't add up. If the loans were real, they'd leave a trail. But it was like they were never there. I opened the box where I kept all my school files, old IDs, class schedules, transcripts. At the bottom was a crumpled receipt from freshman orientation. I didn't remember keeping it, but there it was. Full tuition paid, $14,962. The payer's name was typed in the top right corner. Margaret Holloway. Not Mom. Not Dad. I froze. The name meant nothing at first. I read it again. Then again. It wasn't a typo. I checked the address listed on the form. It wasn't our home. It wasn't even our city. I searched the name online. Margaret Holloway. There were dozens. But one popped out, an obituary. Died 6 years ago. Age 37. No photo, but the location matched the receipt. I stared at it, feeling my chest get tighter with each passing second. I tried calling my mom. Straight to voicemail. My dad didn't answer either. I didn't even know what I'd ask. Margaret Holloway. I said the name out loud. It didn't sound familiar, but it didn't feel like a stranger either. There was something buried there, something I hadn't uncovered yet. I wasn't just angry, I was terrified. Not of what I didn't know, but of how carefully it had been hidden. Someone had built a version of my life from scratch. And I had no idea who had written the first line. I didn't go back to my parents' house right away. I needed answers, but not from them. Not yet. So I called Grandma. She sounded frail on the phone, her voice small, like she already knew I was coming. Not for pie or leftover ham, but for the truth. When I pulled into her driveway, she was already at the door, wrapped in a shawl despite the heater blasting behind. She didn't smile. She just stepped aside to let me in. Neither of us spoke as she led me upstairs. She didn't ask why I was there. She didn't need to. She stopped at the attic door, keys jingling in her hand. Her knuckles looked swollen, her skin paper thin. "You'll want to check the cedar chest," she said, unlocking it and turning away before I could respond. She didn't come up with me. The attic smelled like dust and mothballs and old secrets. A single bulb buzzed above, swinging slightly, casting a crooked shadow across the room. I found the cedar chest near the far wall, half covered by a quilt. It creaked when I opened it. Inside, Christmas ornaments, old picture frames, yellowing yearbooks. At the very bottom, wrapped tightly in a knit sweater, was a bundle of letters tied with red ribbon. The paper was delicate, edges curled. Each envelope was addressed in looping cursive to the same name, Margaret. My hands trembled as I picked up the top one. Postmarked December 2005. I slid it open. I can't believe how fast things have changed. We said we'd never tell them. We agreed, remember? That it would be easier for everyone this way. I hate how much it hurts. Watching her grow and knowing she'll never know who I really am. But they promised me she'd be safe. That she'd have a better life than we ever could give her. I don't know if I believe them anymore, but I'll keep quiet. For her. Always. I stared at the page until the ink blurred. Watching her grow. I pulled out another. And another. Each one spoke in fragments, like someone trying to swallow their pain while writing through it. There were references to birthdays, to her favorite stuffed dog, to how she cried when she lost her tooth. They weren't generic. They were memories. Mine. And always, always that name Margaret. I kept reading until one line stopped me cold. "We'll never tell them whose child it really is." I read it again. And again. Whose child? I sat back on my heels, the attic suddenly too quiet. My heartbeat filled the space like a drum. These weren't just letters. They were proof. Proof that someone had been watching me from the outside. Writing to a woman no one ever spoke of. Not mom. Not dad. Not even grandma, until now. I wasn't supposed to find these. The ribbon had been tied too neatly. The chest placed too deep in the attic. Someone had buried the truth with intention. But they made one mistake. They didn't count on me coming back. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the name in the letters, the way the handwriting curved around my childhood, like a ghost I never knew was there. I kept hearing that one sentence. "We'll never tell them whose child it really is." The next morning, I drove straight to my parents' house. Dad was in the garage, pretending to fix something that didn't need fixing. I asked him directly. Not even a build-up. Just, "Who is Margaret?" He didn't look at me, just kept tightening a bolt on an old lawn chair. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said. "Yes, I do. And I've read the letters." That got him. He stopped moving, hands still. "Where'd you get those?" "Grandma gave them to me," I lied. His jaw tightened, like he was trying to chew through what to say next. But whatever words he wanted to reach for never came. "You're not ready for this." "Stop saying that," I snapped. "Stop acting like this is something I can't handle. Tell me the truth." But he walked past me into the house, shutting the door behind him. That was the moment I knew he'd never give me real answers. Not unless he was forced to. I started digging. I remembered the old filing cabinet in the basement. My parents thought locking it was enough to keep curious hands out. They forgot how many times I'd watched the combination. 3 numbers. That was all it took. Inside, the files were mostly junk, taxes, expired warranties, utility bills. But behind a stack of old insurance forms, I found a folder labeled ET account. That name didn't mean anything at first. But when I opened it, the pieces started snapping together. Printed statements. Transaction logs. Monthly deposits under educational trust. Each entry was marked from a fund connected to a private bank out of state. The account holder's name was Margaret Holloway. I sat down on the cold tile floor, the pages spread out in front of me. The dates went back more than a decade. The payments never stopped, not even after she died. Why would my parents keep paying into an account held by a dead woman? I went upstairs, heart thudding, and found Mom in the kitchen. I dropped the papers on the counter. Start talking. Her eyes scanned the documents, and I watched something in her crack. The mask she always wore, the one that smiled through church, holidays, PTA meetings, it slid off. "She was someone your father used to know," she said quietly. "Before we got married." "More than someone," I said. "Tell me the rest." But she just turned away, her voice barely audible. "There's more than you think. More than I ever agreed to." I leaned in. "Then tell me. Because I think I was part of a deal I didn't know I was in." She didn't answer. She just stood there, still, hands gripping the counter so tightly her knuckles went white. The house was dark when I returned to Grandma's. She was still awake, sitting in her armchair by the window, lights off, one lamp casting a soft glow over the living room. Her knitting sat untouched in her lap. She didn't look surprised to see me. "Sit," she said, nodding to the couch across from her. Her voice wasn't warm, but it wasn't cold either. Just tired. I lowered myself onto the cushion without a word. The silence between us stretched, heavy and electric. Then she looked me in the eye. "You found the account," she said. I nodded. "And the letters?" And the name, Margaret Holloway, her mouth pressed into a tight line. I always thought I'd take this to my grave, she whispered. But I suppose you deserve to know whose blood runs in your veins. My heart pounded, each word slicing closer to the truth I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. Your father, she said, had an affair. A long one. It started before he married your mother, and it didn't end when it should have. Margaret was the woman. She worked at the same firm. Quiet, private. Never asked for anything. My breath caught. The pieces were coming together too fast now. When Margaret got pregnant, your father panicked. He couldn't afford a scandal. We were already arranging the wedding. Your mother knew. She found out just before the ceremony. I thought she'd walk away, but she didn't. She agreed to raise me, I said, voice thin. Grandma nodded slowly. Only if Margaret walked away. No visits. No contact. No custody. She was told it was best for you. Margaret was heartbroken, but she signed the papers. She left town. Your father paid into the trust as part of the agreement. And my mom? I asked barely above a whisper. She wanted the life she was promised. A stable home. Children. Appearances intact. Taking you in was her way of salvaging what she thought she was owed. I stared down at my hands. They were shaking. Grandma leaned forward, her voice harder now. It wasn't right. None of it. But it's what they did. And it's what they would have kept doing if you hadn't started asking questions. A lump formed in my throat. Why didn't you say anything sooner? She looked down at the floor, like the weight of it all was pressing into her spine. Because it wasn't my place. And because I thought, maybe, keeping the truth buried would protect you. I see now that it only chained you to their lie. The room felt too quiet again. I couldn't tell if I wanted to cry or scream. You are not a mistake, Grandma said suddenly. Her eyes found mine again. You were born out of something broken, yes. But you were always loved. Just not always honestly. It was the first time anyone in the family had said it out loud. And it didn't make anything better. But it made everything clear. I found the address on a piece of yellowed paper tucked inside one of the envelopes from the letters. Grandma hadn't mentioned it, but it was in Margaret's handwriting. Her name, the street, the town 2 hours north. I drove out there the next morning, engine humming beneath a fog-covered sky. The town was small, nearly silent, like the kind of place where people still left their doors unlocked. Her house was at the edge of a wooded lot, set back from the road, paint peeling off the shutters, the mailbox tilted sideways. The front door was boarded up. I circled around back and found a rusted screen door hanging off its hinges. I stepped inside. The air was stale, thick with dust and mildew. The living room was empty except for a broken lamp and a sunken couch. Windows smeared with grime let in just enough light to show the outlines of what used to be a home. I moved carefully, my footsteps loud on warped floorboards. Something about being there made my chest tighten, like I was walking through someone else's memory. The bedroom was almost untouched. The mattress had been stripped, but the dresser drawers were still full. Old clothes, a dried-out perfume bottle, and tucked in the back of the bottom drawer, wrapped in a faded scarf, was a small, leather-bound journal. My hands shook as I opened it. The pages smelled of time, ink faded, edges soft. The first entry was dated February 2005. He still says he loves me. He says he'll leave her soon. I know it's foolish to believe, but I want to. I want so badly to believe he means it this time. The handwriting was neat but tight, pressed into the paper like each word hurt. The entries shifted over time, from hope to fear, then something much heavier. She came to see me, his fiancée. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just told me, very calmly, that I would never be a part of their lives again, that my baby would never know me, that if I truly cared, I'd disappear. I turned the page. Another dated entry months later. I held her once. Just once. She was warm and perfect. I kissed her forehead and they took her from me. No ceremony. No goodbyes. Just a promise that she'd be cared for. Loved. I wanted to believe them. The final entries were harder to read. Shorter. Disjointed. I think about you every day. I see you in strangers. I hear you in dreams. They told me I'd never see you again. Then the last line, scrawled in a trembling hand. But I'm watching. I froze. That line didn't feel poetic. It felt deliberate. Like a warning. Or a vow. I closed the journal and sat there on the floor, surrounded by the quiet ghosts of a life that had once held me, even for a moment. She never stopped watching. And now I knew. I was never as alone as they made me believe. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. I went back to the bank statements. The educational trust was supposed to be for my schooling. Grandma had said it. Margaret had hoped it. But the numbers didn't add up. There were transfers, clean monthly ones, that didn't match any tuition charges. They went to something labeled simply, Lorenzo Ltd. I followed the trail. The company was registered overseas. A shell corporation. It took a favor from a tech-savvy friend and a night of digging, but eventually, I traced it back. The name on the paperwork? My father's. I stared at the screen for a long time. My stomach turned. He hadn't just lied about Margaret. He hadn't just erased her. He'd taken her money, my money, and buried it somewhere out of reach. All while telling me he was doing his best to help. I needed proof. So I went to him with the calmest voice I could manage and a phone recording quietly from my back pocket. He was in the den, scrolling through his laptop like none of this was on fire. I know about the trust, I said. He didn't look up. We've been through this. No, I said. We haven't. Because I also know about Lorenzo Limited. That made him freeze. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Slowly, he closed the laptop. I had no choice, he said finally. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Whose choice was it then? I asked. Margaret's? Mine. He stood up. I did what I had to do. That money was never going to fix anything. It would have gone to some expensive school, maybe a degree you'd never use. I put it somewhere safe. I used it to keep everything together. Together for who? His mouth twitched. For this family. For your mother. For you. You stole from me, I said, voice sharp. From the woman you abandoned. You let her die thinking her sacrifice gave me something real. He paced a little, rubbing the back of his neck like he could undo the last 20 years. I protected you, he muttered. From all of it. From her, from the mess, from the mistakes. You think your life would have been better with her? She was barely getting by. I took a step closer. She loved me. She gave you everything she had. His jaw tightened. And I gave you a life. No, I said. You gave yourself a clean slate. He didn't reply. I walked out before he could spin another excuse. In my pocket, the recording kept running. Every word. Every justification. Every admission. It was all there. His version of protection, caught in his own voice. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. The call came just after midnight. Grandma had fallen. She was in the hospital. Broken hip, mild concussion, possible internal bleeding. They said she was lucky. I didn't believe in luck anymore. I drove straight there, heart in my throat. The nurse said she was conscious, but weak. When I stepped into the room, her skin looked too pale against the sheets. She tried to smile, but it flickered and died before it reached her eyes. She didn't mean to, Grandma whispered. I leaned closer. Who? She just closed her eyes. The hospital said she'd tripped near the back porch. But something about that didn't sit right. Grandma wasn't frail like she looked. She was careful. Always. Especially after what she told me. Later that day, I went to her house. It was still sealed up, quiet. I remembered the old security system she installed years ago. Motion sensors, video feed, the whole setup. Most of it never got used, but the cameras had been running since Christmas. I found the hard drive in the back closet, plugged it in, fast-forwarded through hours of nothing. And then I found it. Mom. It was the day of the fall, just hours before. She stood in the backyard, fists clenched, face red. Grandma was on the porch, leaning on the railing. Their voices didn't carry, but the body language said enough. Mom was shaking her head, shouting. Grandma tried to turn away. Then it happened. A sudden shove. A lunge. Grandma stumbled backward and fell. The footage froze in my mind. I couldn't breathe. I went to our house. Mom was in the living room, pretending nothing had happened, flipping through a magazine. I didn't waste time. I dropped the flash drive on the table. You want to explain this? She stared at it, then at me. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Not at first. She was threatening to expose everything, she said quietly. The money. The affair. You. She wanted to burn it all down. She told the truth, I said. She was punishing me, Mom snapped. All those years I spent pretending, holding it together while he still looked for her. You don't know what that felt like. And that justifies this? Her eyes filled with something close to shame, but it was too late. I didn't mean to push her, she said. I just snapped. You could have killed her, I said. The silence stretched. Then she whispered, I know. I walked out. This time, I didn't look back. By the end of the week, the truth started leaking. The family stopped speaking. My uncle pulled out of the business. My cousin deleted the family group chat. My parents' perfect image shattered like glass underfoot. What held us together wasn't love. It was silence. And that silence was gone. I didn't plan to make it public. Not at first. But after the hospital visit, after the recording, after watching my mother sit across from me and admit to nearly killing her own mother, I realized this wasn't just a personal story anymore. This was rot. Deep, generational rot dressed in politeness and holiday sweaters. They'd buried the truth for decades. Every lie had built a wall. But I had the match. The flash drive contained everything. Dad's confession, the trust fund statements, even the security footage. I stripped any identifiers, removed my name, encrypted it all. Then I sent it. Anonymous tip. Local news. I didn't expect how fast it would blow up. The headline hit the next morning. Prominent local family accused of financial fraud, cover-up, and elder abuse. The story spread like fire. By noon, reporters were knocking on doors. Neighbors whispered. Friends called and then stopped calling. Strangers posted comments under the article like they knew us. Dad was approached by investigators within 24 hours. They froze the offshore accounts. The trust fund was traced. His name on everything. The school board dropped him from the advisory panel. His business partner issued a statement cutting ties. Even his golf club revoked his membership. Mom stayed indoors. No statement. No apology. Just curtains drawn and phone off the hook. The family group chat didn't just go quiet. It disappeared. Deleted. A week later, I visited Grandma again. Her room was brighter this time, a vase of sunflowers by the window. Her color had returned, but her body still looked small under the blanket. She watched the door like she was expecting bad news. When I walked in, she gave a tired smile. "You did it," she said. I sat beside her. It wasn't justice, but it was something. She nodded slowly. Sometimes fire is the only way to clean a rotten house. Her words sat heavy between us. I thought I'd feel worse, I admitted, but all I feel is clear. You cleared a path, she said. Now you decide what to build on it. The world outside didn't feel real anymore. The roles I used to play, dutiful daughter, quiet niece, smiling guest at Thanksgiving, they didn't fit. People said things like, family is everything, but no one ever finishes that sentence. Family is everything until it isn't, until the lies become too big, until silence becomes violence, until truth becomes the only oxygen left. I didn't burn it down for revenge. I did it because no one else would. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, tucked between junk mail and a late utility bill. It was postmarked the day before Grandma's fall. The handwriting on the envelope was unmistakable, hers neat and deliberate. Inside, a folded sheet of cream paper and a small brass key. The letter was short, measured. She'd written it with the weight of someone who knew it would be her last word. I've told you what I could face to face, but not everything, not the part that was mine to own. I was the one who pushed your parents to take you. Your father wanted to disappear. Your mother wanted to run. But I told them keeping you could fix what they broke. I thought love could do that. It couldn't. And I'm sorry. This key belongs to a box at First Fidelity Bank. There's one more truth you deserve to see. The safety deposit box was small and cold. Inside, a single flash drive in a velvet pouch, and a note in the same delicate handwriting, from Margaret for her daughter. The video was dated 2009. Margaret sat in a sunlit room, older than I'd ever seen her in photos, but calm. If you're seeing this, they failed you. But you still have time to become something they never could, honest. She smiled, sad but proud. I gave you up because I thought it would give you a better life. I didn't realize better didn't mean truthful. She looked straight into the camera, as if she saw me. Don't carry their silence. Live in your truth. That's how you'll find peace. The video ended, but her words stayed. Not everything could be fixed, but some things could finally be understood. Do you think I made the right decision by exposing everything and walking away from my family? Or should I have kept the secrets buried and tried to forgive them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear what you think. And if you're into stories with shocking twists and deep family secret, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new one.